Good day, everyone. Our topic is all about lowering the age of criminal liability. Lowering the age of criminal liability is an act of violence against children. Children in conflict with the law are already victims of circumstance, mostly because of poverty and exploitation by adult crime syndicates. Okay, so the age of criminal liability is the age below which a child is deemed incapable of having committed criminal offense. In legal terms, it is referred to as a defense or defense of infancy, which is a form of defense known as an excuse, so that defendants falling within definition of an infant are excluded from criminal liability for their actions. If at the relevant time, they had not reached an age of criminal liability, after reaching the initial age, there may be level of responsibility dictated by age and the type of offense committed. Children aged 9 to below 15 will face criminal charges if found guilty of committing serious crimes. So, under this proposed bill in the Philippines, ang pinakamababang pwedeng makulong ay nasa edad na 9 pataas. So, here in the Philippines, move to lower criminal liability age to 9. Lowering the age of criminal liability, this bill was brought about by the alarming increase in the number of criminal syndicates using minors to carry out criminal acts. And ang bill na ito ay isinusulong dito sa Pilipinas dahil madaming kabataan na menor de edad ang nasasangkot sa mga krimen. So, criminal liability can be divided into 4 primary categories. First is personal crimes. So, personal crimes are those that result in physical or mental harm to another person. They can be divided into 2 main categories: forms of homicide and other violent crimes. So, where the physical harm to another individual is so severe that it causes death, a defendant may be charged with any one of several types of homicide. Examples of personal crimes are assault and battery, child abuse, homicide, and sexual abuse. So, assault and battery to be the attempt or actual physical striking of another or an act that is so threatening it puts the other person in fear of immediate harm. Second is property crimes. It typically involves the interference with the property of another. Although they may involve physical or mental harm to another, they primarily result in the deprivation of the use of enjoyment of property. Examples of property crimes include robbery, kidnapping, carjacking, shoplifting, vandalism, arson, and illegal drug trade. Okay, property crimes usually involving someone's property. Like kapag nagnakaw ka sa bahay ng kaibigan mo, that act is property crime. Number 3, inchoate crime. Inchoate crimes refers to those crimes that were initiated but not completed, and acts that assist in the commission of another crime. Inchoate crimes requires more than a person simply intending or hoping to commit a crime. Okay, so the individual must take a substantial step towards the completion of the crime in order to be found guilty. Inchoate crimes includes aiding and abetting, attempt, and conspiracy. In some cases, inchoate crimes can be punished to the same degree that the underlying crime would be punished, while in the other cases, the punishment might be less severe. Number 4 is statutory crimes. 3 significant types of statutory crimes are alcohol-related crimes, drug crimes, traffic offenses, and financial or white-collar crimes. These crimes are specifically prohibited by statute because society hopes to deter individuals from engaging in them. Okay, so alcohol-related crimes include a variety of offenses regarding how and where an alcohol can be consumed, such as open container violations, minor impossessions of alcohol, public intoxication, and selling and supplying alcohol to minors. Okay, so here are the short history of criminal law in the Philippines. When the Spanish colonizers conquered the Philippines, the Spanish Código Penal was made applicable and extended to the Philippines by Royal Decree of 1870. This was replaced with the old penal code, which was put in place by Spaniards authorities and took effect in the Philippines on July 14, 1876. This law was effectively in the Philippines until the American colonization of the Philippines. It was only on December 8, 1930, when it was amended under Act Number 3815 with the enactment of the Revised Penal Code of the Philippines. The division of suits between private parties, the civil law, and the actions by government to punish lawbreakers. The criminal law was first set to stone literally by the Sumerians some 4,000 years ago. The Sumerians chiseled their code on stone tablets. They were tough on criminals by modern standards.
Sinuportahan ng dating Pangulong Loreno Macapagal Arroyo na isabatas ang pagbaba sa edad ng pananagutan. Sumalungat naman o hindi sumang-ayon ang Commission on Human Rights dito dahil umano ito ay nakakasama sa kapakanan ng mga bata at ayon din sa kanila hindi pa umano handa ang Bahay Pag-asa facilities kung saan ilalagak ang mga children in conflict with the laws. Sa ginawang pagpupulong ng mga mambabatas noong January 19 noong nakaraang taon ay ang iba ay sumalungat ngunit ang iba ay sumang-ayon dito. Isa sa mga sumang-ayon dito ay sinabing pabata na kasi ng pabata ang nasasangkot sa krimen tulad ng pagtutulak ng illegal na droga, panggagahasa at iba pa. Children 9 years and below shall be released to the custody of their parents or their nearest relative subject to a community-based intervention program supervised by the local social welfare and development officer unless it is the child's best interest after evaluation to be referred to a child youth facility or Bahay Pag-asa or to a licensed accredited non-governmental office. In addition, it has not been proven yet that putting children behind the bars will stop the commission of crimes. Instead, this would be badly affect them, based on studies. Some of these bad effects are stigmatization, the possibility of becoming repeat offenders, and different effects to the physical, mental, and emotional development of the child. Finally, Commission on Human Rights argued that the bill may deny a bright future to the children branded as criminals at an early age.
Argument against the lowering age of criminal liability. The statement attributed to Ms. Lota Slywander, Representative, UNICEF Philippines, Manila, 18 January 2019. UNICEF is deeply concerned about ongoing efforts in Congress to lower the minimum age of criminal responsibility in the Philippines below 15 years of age. The proposed lowering vary from 9 and 12 years and goes against the letter of spirit of child rights. There is a lack of evidence and data that children are responsible for the increase in crime rates committed in the Philippines. Lowering the age of criminal responsibility will not deter adult offenders from abusing children to commit crimes. UNICEF supports the Philippine government as a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Right of the Child, or UNCRC, to ensure that children grow up in a safe environment protected from crime and violence. Sadly, lowering the age of criminal responsibility is an act of violence against children. Children in conflict with the law are already victims of circumstances, mostly because of poverty and exploitation by adult crime syndicates. Children who are exploited and driven by adults to commit crimes need to be protected, not further penalized. Instead, they should be given a second chance to reform and to rehabilitate. Scientific studies show that brain function reaches maturity only at around 16 years old, affecting children's reasoning and impulse control. UNICEF calls on the government and civil society to focus on strengthening the implementation of this law instead of amending it. Branding children as criminals removes accountability from adults who are responsible of safeguarding them. If children who have been exploited by criminal syndicates are penalized instead of adults who abuse them, we fail to uphold the rights and well-being of children. If we fail to understand the underlying reasons how and why children commit crimes, we as adults fail our children. So, detaining children will not teach them accountability for their actions. In order to maximize their potential to contribute to nation building, children must grow up in a caring, nurturing, and protective environment. This requires strong parenting, support programs, and access to health, education, and social services, as well as to child-sensitive justice and social welfare system.
Summary of Republic Act No. 9344, or Juvenile Justice Welfare Act of 2006. Review and features. Republic Act 9344, or the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, defines the juvenile justice welfare system as a system dealing with children at risk and children conflict with the law, which provide children appropriate proceedings, including programs and services for prevention, diversion, rehabilitation, reintegration, and aftercare to ensure their normal growth and development. Instead of using the word juvenile, Philippine laws may use the word child as defined in Republic Act 9344. Child is a person under the age 18 years old, while child at risk refers to a child who is vulnerable to and the risk of committing criminal offenses because of personal, family, and social circumstances. Some of examples mentioned in a law are being abandoned or neglected, and living in a community with high level of criminality and drugs abuse. Under Republic Act 10630, offenses which only apply to a child and not to adult are called status offenses. They shall not be considered as offenses and shall not be punished if committed by child. Example of status offense include curfew R, truancy, parental disobedience, and the like. Before Republic Act No. 9344 was enacted, children at risk at CICL were treated much like adult offenders, as when former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. signed into a law the Prejudicial Recognition Act 1980, which abolished the juvenile and domestic relations courts.
Let's move on to related news. Manila, the Philippine National Police or PNP said it considers it good news that a lower house panel approved an amendment to the Juvenile Justice Act which lowers criminal liability to 9 years old. PNP spokesperson Chief Superintendent Benigno Durano Jr. said those involved in crimes like illegal drugs, rape, among others, are getting younger. As a law enforcement agency, the PNP will implement whichever law that will be passed by Congress. Durano also said they are inclined to support the amendment since criminal syndicates use children to serve as couriers and other roles. That's the reason why Congress and some other advocates, not only within but outside the government, have decided to lower the age of criminal liability, Durana said. Based on the reality of crimes in our country, I think it's also a wise move to consider lowering the age of criminal liability. But then again, I'm sure marami namang safeguards iyon. If ever it will be passed, there will be a lot of safeguards to make sure na itong mga kabataan na ito will be reformed, not destroy their lives because of their criminal liability. May safety nets ang batas na ipinapatupad ng ating pamahalaan, Durana said. So, ito pa yung mga minors na nai-involve sa crime.
Statistical of lowering the age of criminal liability. Based on Philippine National Police or PNP reported, children in conflict with the law, incident data is more than 14,993 minors were involved in crimes in 2014. Number 1 on the list, crimes committed by minors was theft, with 5,886. This was followed by physical injury with a number of 2,601, robbery with 883, rape 743, and to the Republic Act 9165 or illegal drugs with 314. In 2015, Philippine Police data a total of 11,616 minors involved in the top 5 crimes. In total, the top 5 type crimes is rape, physical injury, and others. In 2017, 5 list death list out of 10,388 incidents. For the moral, if I agree with the lowering age liability, for me, it's not good to do this lowering of age liability. Each of everyone are undergo with this because of lack of food and support. In case they do a bad thing, let their parents punish them or state what they want to do or get to them or give it to them with the SWD. Everyone can change. And I know that some adolescents are the savior of the second generation. There are many disadvantage and advantage on this, and I will lecture it for you. The advantage of lowering age is to give a lesson for them in or para hindi nila gawin ulit yon or para maturuan sila ng leksyon. Ganun po. And second is para din hindi second is yung disadvantage niya. Disadvantage niya is yung maraming magre-rebelde na kabataan dahil dito kasi bata pa lang sila. Kumbaga, wala pa silang kaalam-alam. Nagawa lang nila yon dahil wala silang pagkain or hindi sila sinusuportahan ng mga magulang nila. Kaya dapat is i-consider na lang muna yon hanggat hindi pa sila dependent sa kanilang sarili. Second one, disadvantage is hindi sila magkakaroon ng magandang buhay. Kasi nga kumbaga binibigyan na nila ng end or na-stop na doon yung goal nila sa kanilang buhay. Dapat bigyan sila ng chance para magbago. Kumbaga i-support sila para upang sa ganon mabigyan sila ng magandang intervention or motivation para hindi na nila gawin yon sa susunod. Kasi nga sabi nila is everyone can change. So, doon nga, dapat bigyan na lang sila ng chance, support, and care or love para ma-feel nila yung talagang gusto nilang ma-claim sa kanilang sarili. Baka naman kasi hindi nila nararamdaman yung may gusto silang maramdaman na hindi kayang ibigay ng parent nila. Kaya po nila nagagawa yun. Based naman po sa robbery, lack of food din lang yun. Sa rape naman, support po yun. Kasi nga po is nagagawa nila yon kasi hindi nila tinuturuan ng magandang asal yung anak nila. So, yon. Support po sa property damage naman po is lack of support din po kasi nagagawa nila yon kasi walang support yung parent nila. Kung binigyan man sila ng magandang asal or tinuruan ng magandang asal, that's it.